Hi loves! So I'm so excited to finally get this review up. I think I needed to wait for a while because when this palette first came out, YouTube was like blowing up with reviews. And at first I thought maybe I don't even need to do a review. You know, I tested out the palette and well, let's kind of just get to the specs. So the intent of this palette was supposedly to be the sister palette to the Anastasia Beverly Hills Modern Renaissance palette. This palette is called the Subculture palette. That's how it was launched, that it was a sister palette to Modern Renaissance. If Modern Renaissance was the day, this was an evening type look. It is exactly the same as the Modern Renaissance in the following ways. It comes in a box. It has a soft touch cover to it. It contains the same amount of shades, which is, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, so 14 shades. It also has 14 shades. It also comes with a synthetic kind of crappy brush. It's not a horrible brush, but it's not the best either. So let's go ahead and talk about the palette itself. So it is a $42 palette. It's available everywhere. It's available in store at Ulta and Sephora as of the day that I'm filming this. It is also on Beautylish. It's also at like Macy's, Dillard's, all those department stores. The eyeshadows have definitely been reformulated since the ABH Modern Renaissance. So there was definitely a formula change. That's a fact. Look at the back of the boxes. That's a fact. That's not innuendo. That's not gossip. That's not me, you know, making stuff up. That's a fact. There are literally half as many ingredients. The eyeshadows are very pigmented. All Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes, and I literally have just about every single palette, I think except for the very first two, because I kind of hadn't hopped on the train yet. I think I have everything from Lavish On, I think that's the name of the palette, and I love them all. The Artist palette is one of my favorites of all time. I love all Anastasia Beverly Hills palettes, and there are some things about this palette that I love as well. The shadows are extremely pigmented, and they are powdery. So those people that have shown pictures of kind of like putting their brush in over and over again, and the brush all, and the the formula all kind of coming out. You know, I believe that probably happened. I wanted to look at my palette number because people were talking about palette numbers. Yeah, with my contacts in, I can't even see it. So I don't even know what my batch number is. Okay. So the eyeshadows themselves, each of them are 0.7 grams. So I prefer a palette that has eyeshadows that are like 1 to 1.5 grams per pot. So this is a little bit low, meaning that when you break it down, this comes up as being $4.29 a gram, approximately. It is cruelty-free. It is not vegan, but the only reason it's not vegan is I think it's because the red shades have carmine in it, the crushed beetle type product. If you didn't already know that, I hope that didn't blow your mind. There are crushed beetles in certain eyeshadows. But it is cruelty free. It's just not vegan as far as certain ones. Swatched, I think that this is a beautiful palette. It finger swatches really well. It brush swatches really well. I'm going to go ahead after I go through my whole review of the palette. I'm going to put my swatches up in just a photo. So stay tuned for that. I'm also going to do some standalone looks with this palette. This is a palette. This is a look that I've done completely with this palette, and I'll go through and tell you about it in a few moments. Let's see. So far, I've come up with 2 to 3 looks, but I haven't sat down with this palette every single day. I think that this palette is better than some people said it was. But there are also a lot of people out there that do say it's a good palette. I think that this is not the palette for someone who wants quick, simple looks. This is not the palette for a first timer. This is not the palette for an inexperienced makeup user. This is not the palette for someone who doesn't know a lot about makeup. This is a palette for an advanced eyeshadow user. This is a palette for someone, not necessarily like just makeup artist. I'm not a makeup artist, but I do love developing looks with eyeshadow. I love using different techniques to come up with different looks from an eyeshadow palette. I love using a variety of brushes. I used some of my Wayne Goss goat hair brushes with this. I used some synthetic brushes with this. With this particular color Electric, which I have on my eyelids, and it's gorgeous, I wet the brush. I used a synthetic brush, and I wet the brush, and I packed it on my eyelid. I think it showed up beautifully because of that. The other colors that I used in my look today were Roxy, which a lot of people showed it as like you put your brush in and it just falls apart. I think it's really nicely pigmented. I think that it blended out really, really well. I think it's a gorgeous color. I also used the color Dawn. That was the transition color that I used. I used a little bit of Dawn up on my upper brow bone to lighten it up. I also used a little bit of Fudge and a little bit of Roxy underneath my eye. I also used a little bit of Mercury and Fudge in the outer corner for this look. So that's how I achieved this look. I think that this is a gorgeous look. I like this palette. I am not returning it. I think it's a good palette. I like it, and that's my review of it. Hopefully, you know, you take it for what it's worth. I feel like I gave a lot of facts and I gave a lot of my opinion about the palette. I'm going to continue to do looks with it. So this is one look that I achieved with it. And I'm not good with tutorials, but that's why I kind of just went through and told you what it looked like. And then I will definitely be coming back and showing you some other looks in other videos. Love you guys.